some song. My name is Joshua Freeland, and I am from Frederick, Maryland. Just to give a quick little testimony about my life and how I came to college. I was saved when I was about 7 years old. I'm the youngest of 4, and when I was born, my parents decided to go ahead and take our kids to church, and so we could grow up in church. And so I grew up in, like I said, when I was introduced, I grew up in Frederick, Maryland, where I lived my entire life in the same church. And so when I was about 7 years old, I accepted Jesus Christ as my Savior.
Amen.
And as I was growing up, I didn't always do what I was supposed to do. I wasn't always the best behaved child. When I was about 12 years old, I started getting bitter and angry at God for some things that's happened, of course, when I was younger. When I was about 6 months old, the doctors found spinal cancer in my back, and because of, of course, they removed it, and I'm completely cancer-free now.
Amen.
But because of the surgery when I was real little and I was young, it's had a lot of complications, health complications, and I'm about 19 right now, and I've probably had about 8 different surgical procedures associated with that. And so, of course, I've had a lot of complications. When I was about 12 years old, I started getting angry and bitter at God for everything that's happened to me. And I held that resentment in my heart. I started running away from God, getting with the wrong crowd, listening to the wrong kind of music, and doing the wrong kind of things. And I still went to church, and I still sat up and listened to the preaching, but I had a hard heart, and nothing was going through. And so about when I was about 14 years old, I actually came to the camp that's run by Cleveland Order Baptist Church, that's run by Pastor Fugit, Circle C Baptist Ranch. I went to that camp, and I got my life right with God. I surrendered my life to the Lord that week when I went to camp. And about a year later, when I was 15, God called me to be a missionary. Now, when I surrendered my life to the Lord, I prayed to God, God, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. And when He called me to be a missionary, I'm like, God, I'll do anything but be a missionary. But it's funny how God works like that. He always does things like that. But of course, when God first called me, I didn't want to do it, and I kind of ran from it. And for about a week, I kind of ran from the calling, and it was one of the most miserable weeks of my life. At the end of the week, I finally surrendered to do what God wanted me to do, and I had such peace, I had such joy once I did that. And so I knew God wanted me to be a missionary, and I knew I had to be trained to be a missionary. I couldn't go to a secular school. Of course, secular schools are good, but I needed to be trained to be a preacher, to be a pastor, to be a missionary. And so my pastor at the time, he was actually the, Dr. John C. is his name. He was actually the original vice president of Commonwealth Baptist College. And of course, he pointed me to the college. I knew Pastor Fugit. He'd come to our church and preach. And I knew he was a very good man, a very good preacher, a very good teacher, a very good example for the ministry. And so it was a no-brainer for me to choose Commonwealth Baptist College. And of course, I've been there for 2 years now. I'll be a junior in the fall. And I've learned a lot since going there. Of course, one of my favorite classes is Church Ed that Brother Whitehouse mentioned. Pastor Fugit comes, he teaches the young men, he teaches them very practical things on how to do the ministry. And of course, Cleveland Road Baptist Church is what we like to call the model church, in the sense that you can take things from it, you can learn from it just by watching Pastor Fugit and watching what he does and how he does things. And it's been a blessing to my life. I've learned a lot, not just from the classes, although you learn from the classes, but I learned a lot from watching from the examples of the staff and the examples of Pastor Fugit, the examples of the church and the members of the church. And I ask that you continue to pray for our college, continue to pray for our church, continue to pray for the men and women who are training for the ministry. And thank you.
Amen.
Complete indeed, no work of mine could take, dear Lord, the place of thine. Thy blood hath pardoned bought for me, and I shall stand complete in thee. Yea, justified, O blessed thought, and sanctified, salvation wrought. Thy blood hath pardoned bought for me, and glorified I too shall be. Complete in these wants of life, and no good thing to me denied, since thou my portion, Lord, will be.
Thy blood hath pardoned but for me, and glorified I too shall be. Complete in thee, no more shall sin. Thy grace has conquered, reign within. Thy blood hath bid the tempter flee, and I shall stand complete in thee.
Yea, justified,
O
blessed blood, and sanctified, salvation wrought.
Thy blood hath pardoned but for me, and glorified I too shall be. Dear Savior, when before thy bar all tribes and tongues assembled are, among the chosen I shall be, at thy right hand, complete in thee. Yea, justified, O blessed thought, and sanctified, salvation wrought. Thy blood hath pardoned but for me, and glorified I too shall be. Thy blood hath pardoned but for me, and glorified I too shall be.
Amen.